Welcome back, legends. I hope you're all fantastic. Today, we are looking at the Revival Drive Hot Rod Compact Edition from Origin Effects, all the way in the UK. This is a lot more than just a Marshall in a box pedal. This does some stuff that I don't think anything else that I'm aware of really does, mostly because it is an all analog recreation of a classic 70s guitar tube amp, not just like the preamp section. We're talking about stuff like the cathode follower and the rectifiers and the reactive load that happens when you connect a real tube amp to either a reactive load box or an actual cabinet. And you can use this as a traditional drive pedal. You've got controls for gain, high, low, output. There's a blend control on there. There's this really interesting more and presence control over here, which kind of shapes the negative feedback circuit on there, just like a real tube amplifier. And there is a three-way switch, which can bring in either two different post distortion filters. There's a little knob here so that you can fine tune those, or you can just set it on a power amp setting and run it straight into some kind of cab simulation, whether it's a hardware IR loader or it's a digital audio workstation. And I have tried to get good sounds out of running either preamps or preamp pedals. You'll know how much I love vintage preamps like the ADA and the Triaxis. I've never really got a sound or feel, more importantly, out of solutions like that when you just add them to an IR. You really need that extra layer of power amp simulation or a loaded down power amp to do that. So we're going to hear this pedal specifically in that application. Like, does it work like a loaded down tube amp if we pair it up with some IRs and some effects? And we're going to start by looking at it in a kind of compact pedal board solution, and then we'll hear it with the big rack at the end of the video. Buckle in, let's go. Okay, let's take a look at the setup for this example. I've got my Les Paul in drop D with some Martin A. Smith pickups in it. Highly recommend checking those out if you're into PAF style pickups. I've got the Anarchy Audio Workhorse, which is a Klon style drive. I'm just using it basically as a clean boost and tone shaping option in front of the Revival Drive. As you can see, the EQ controls are set at noon along with the negative feedback presence control. I basically just think of that as the kind of Marshall to Vox axis, if you like. Gain is quite low at the moment. The blend is set 100% as an overdrive, and I've just adjusted the output to where it is appropriate for this rig. The Polyeffects Digit I'm using as an IR loader. You can see there's a mono cab in there. I have an EQ after that. Let's just press that one. You can see all I'm doing is applying a little bit of a high cut and a low cut. Standard stuff I would do to any real world kind of mic'd cabinet or an impulse response. There's also a pair of delays and a reverb, which are off at the moment. So let's just get started by playing around with this rig so you can hear the character of this pedal as an analog amp simulator. Then we'll have a bit of a jam with it where I kick in some of the other effects. So let's just start off, bridge pickup. Alrighty, cleans up great just by changing my playing articulation there. It's got that AC/DC in a box thing happening at the moment. I'll leave everything where it is and just play around with this control right here. If you crank it up, it is going to get even brighter and I guess more Marshall Plexi-like. And if we bring it down, it's, I think, going to decrease the amount of negative feedback, kind of more akin to a Vox style amp. So it is a little more squishy and woolly when you go in this direction, and it's a little kind of tighter and fizzier in that direction. I actually kind of like it just below noon on there. And then there's no mid-range control on this thing, but you know, if you use the low and the high control, they're interactive. So you bring them down and that's going to give you more of a kind of mid-hump style thing. Notice I haven't played with the gain control yet. Maybe let's bring the gain control up here, and then we'll kind of wind these EQ controls up. In the middle, you get more of a Marshall style character, and as you send them further up, they just kind of get really wild and crazy. I like it. So with these two controls nice and low, so more of that mid-pushed thing, and with more gain is always good. That is really cool. I'm going to bring the presence up on that one. There's this real kind of low end, like, you know, saturated transformer clunk about it that I really like. You know, it doesn't just sound like a drive pedal into an IR. It's got some real nice power amp dynamic in there, which, you know, I guess is kind of the point there. Let's turn the reverb on, and then let's boost this thing. Is my boost on? Now it is. Now we're talking like 80s modded Marshall stuff. Kind of like an amp, isn't it? We will hear this in a second running into my rack, basically using it like a, I guess like a loaded down amp, 80s style. And you load down an old Plexi, you run it through some stereo effects, and then you just kind of bask in all the lush glory. But hearing that boosted with the reverb and the delay is pretty awesome. It definitely has, to my ears, like a definite 70s character in there. Like on its own, it's not doing the Jose modded Marshall style thing from the 80s. It is much more in that like just straight up 70s Marshall or Vox thing with a little bit more gain. You boost it, you can get into that kind of 80s or early 90s territory in there. Lots of character. Let's do a similar thing, but over a backing track. And I'm just gonna kind of start almost where we started with everything at noon, and then I'll just tweak it, add the boost, add some reverb, add some delay, have a good time, and then we'll come back and we'll hear it through the rack with a different guitar. right, this one is for all the rack fans. You can see the settings on the Revival drive. I'm still using the poly for the cab, but nothing else, and I have my big filthy rack turned on back here. At the moment, I'm just using a Clark Technic BBD 320 for a stereo chorus. It sounds like this. Alrighty, let's bring in the mighty Eventide H3500 for some stereo detune. that's feeling good, I'm going to bring in some concert hall reverb from the Lexicon PCM81 and some vintage delays from the Eventide Eclipse. That's pretty darn awesome. And I think the thing I like the most about this is when I'm on single coil mode, I can really clean this up and get some sweet jangly single coil tones. As always, everything is glorious with the rack. I'm going to wrap this up. I will do some more videos with this pedal because this is basically going straight into a pedal drawer in my rack with a compact Cali 76. I'm going to do a separate video with the Cali 76 and the rack for some glorious clean tones, as well as probably using this and experimenting with compression before or after your main amp stage. I think there's a lot of fun to be had exploring that. But the main thing with this that I can see people complaining about is the price. And as always, it's not really the price, it's more a value proposition. Like, do you get what you pay for with this? If you're just looking for a Marshall in a box style pedal, there's a whole ecosystem out there of Marshall or Vox style pedals in a box, a lot of which sound fantastic, and this compares really favorably to them. You probably just have to try them side by side. But for the, loaded down screaming Marshall that you can pair up with a cab sim or chuck straight into a flat power amp in a stereo or a wet dry wet system, I'm not really aware of anything else that does that. And that's where that extra value comes in my opinion anyway. Furthermore, this just feels ridiculously premium. Like, it is so weighty, the knobs are so nicely milled and they're so smooth. The foot switch has that soft foot switch thing on there. This thing just screams quality. It just kind of screams like, out of the things in my class, I'm the best thing that you can get. And if you're somebody who doesn't want to go all in with modeling, like a Fractal or something like that, if you're someone who wants to go all in modeling, something like an Axe-Fx 3 or an FM3, I always say to people, just get the best thing that you can. And that's why I always recommend those to people, because I use them myself. And there's definitely that feeling of, being on stage playing, going, I can't believe how good this sounds. I can't believe how good this feels to operate. This has the same thing going on. There's very few things I can say bad about it. And yes, the pedal was sent to me by Origin. They sent me a Cali 76 as well. So massive thank you to the whole team there in the UK. I'm not being paid to make this video, and Origin aren't seeing this video before it goes out. They're my kind of standard terms. So yeah, to everybody at Origin Effects, well done. This is really, really glorious. And to anybody out there who uses a loaded down amplifier with something like a digital modeling solution for IRs and effects, you should probably check one of these out, whether it's the Hot Rod or it's any other units in the Revival Drive series, because they're a compact way to get that same experience without having to lug around an entire tube head and a load box. Anyway, that's what I think. I really, really like this thing, and it really did surprise me. So let me know what you all thought in the comments below. I would love to hear from you all if you're looking for something like this, or if you're using something like this. Any other questions, feel free to leave in the comments or contact me directly. If you want to support the channel, you can do that via the link to my Patreon in the video description, or you can buy some of the music that I make with my band Ragdoll. Until next time, stay safe, be good to one another. As always, thanks for watching the video, and I hope you have a great day. Cheers.